What? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Hamden Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health being held at Townhouse Auditorium on April 25th, 2022 at 6:02 p.m. The meeting is being conducted in person and remotely using video conferencing technology as allowed by Governor Baker's order of April until July 2015. July 15, 2022. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is anyone recording the meeting other than ourselves? Recording. Seeing none. Minutes, April 4th, 2022.
I think the only thing that's missing is the vote to approve the fire department for the radio provisioning. Is that on that week too? Because we have the police one here. I don't see one for the fire.
But we didn't get, aren't we waiting for a quote from Marcus?
That was for the police radios.
No, Eddie, didn't we get something separate for your radios?
Yeah, we had the quote and we approved it for the communications budget for his upgrade for the provisioning of his radios.
Oh, the one that I couldn't.
I don't see anything on here. I think we just,
Because I put something in the folder this week
yeah.
for like $4,400 or something.
I think it was what, 7,000, 17.
17 was 17.
All right, I gotta look through that.
Yeah, so
I'll make a note.
I think other than that addition, move to approve the minutes for April 4th, 2022.
All in favor?
I remember you doing that.
Next item on our agenda is the Green Communities presentation. And Mr.
Okay, and Mr. Ravinsky, who is the regional coordinator out of the Western Mass office, is with us, and he has sent a presentation, which I'll bring up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Here's Mark.
Thanks. So as Bob mentioned, I'm Mark Ravinsky. I'm the Western Regional Coordinator for the Green Communities Program. I know the town was interested a couple of years ago in becoming a green community, but they wanted to delay things because of COVID. So I'm presenting again on it. The Green Communities Program, for those who don't know, we consider ourselves can you go to the next slide? I don't think I have control over it.
Keep going.
Okay. The Green Communities Program is the hub for all of the communities in Massachusetts, the energy hub for all communities in Massachusetts. So if you have questions about any energy related issues or renewable energy, energy efficiency, we connect you to the right people, and if we can't answer the questions ourselves. Currently there's 280 green communities in the Commonwealth. vast majority of the population lives in a green community now. We have our designation and grant program is one of the things that we're most known for. We're authorized to give up to $20 million a year in grants. Last year, we were closer to about $15 million in grants. And those grants can be used for energy efficiency initiatives, renewable energy, other projects.
You make Mark a co-host for that thing, Tom?
Does he have that on his computer so he can cycle through and they can list?
Sure he does. Should I make you the co-host for this?
Sure.
All right. Here's Dalton. Okay. Haven't done that lately.
His name over there on the right. Click on his name.
Okay, you're now the co-host.
And he can share his screen.
And you want to share your screen?
Yeah.
All right, I'll shut this one down.
All right. Okay, can you see?
Yeah.
So if you look at the neighboring communities around Hampton, they've been successful in receiving grants from us. This is kind of a snapshot of the funding that's been received from some of the neighboring communities. And I've given the slides to Bob, so if he wants to send those out to you later, so you can look at them in a little bit more detail too.
Can you click to the next slide because we're not seeing what you're talking about.
Oh, is that his screen or is that your screen?
That's your screen, Bob.
That's fine.
I thought I shut mine down.
I see his screen, green communities.
Yeah, that's it.
designation,
That's the one we want to see.
Right.
You just gotta exit out of the slideshow on yours. You still have the slide open on your computer.
Here we go.
Yeah, just close that right there. You see the slide right there? Yeah, close all that. There you go. Now we can see the screen.
Can you see mine now?
Yeah.
Great. So there's the kind of snapshot of the funding that the other towns have received in your area. I know East Long Meadow is really interested in becoming a green community also, so they're pursuing this as well. Let's see. So the initial grant that a green community receives is called the Designation Grant. And the Designation Grant is it's a formula. It's $125,000 plus either the population and per capita income. There's a formula based on that. So knowing what that is for Hampton, our estimate for the designation amount is about $130,000, and that's what the town could expect to receive if they become a green community. And they can use that energy efficiency work that they identify within their energy reduction plan. And then once they spend that out, they can apply for competitive grants annually up to $200,000 per applicant.
And there's limitations, now 130,000 you said?
Well, the 130,000, it has to be used for energy efficient projects. So yeah, there are limitations to it. It's not like we just give you the money, you can spend it on whatever you want. You'd have to use it on projects, hopefully that you identified within your energy reduction plan. So there are 5 criteria involved in becoming a green community. The first 2 are pretty, there's kind of like 1A and 1B, but they're 1 and 2. The first one is to adopt an as-of-right siting for renewable energy or alternative energy generation, research and development, or manufacturing. So if you if you set aside or designate a zoning district as of right siting for renewable energy. And it can be renewable energy generation, like typically it'll be solar photovoltaic. It can be siting for a research and development for renewable energy or manufacturing for renewable energy. It just has to be as of right. So no special permits or other kind of discretionary things. And then qualification number 2 is that there has to be an expedited permitting process to go along with those projects within that zone. And that expedited permitting is a year, which is a really long, it has to be less than a year, which I'm sure that your town probably already meets that. For criteria 1 and 2, we would need a letter from your general counsel saying that the town meets that.
Now, on those two, Mark, the town already has 8 solar facilities in town. And we're
Yeah, I was
building-
looking at that today.
And we're building one on the town landfill. Does that count?
So one thing have you already built it or you're going to build it?
It's all been permitted and everything. It's all been permitted. They should start construction shortly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the town landfill.
It's kind of a it's a good question. It's not one that we've had yet. If you already have land designated towards that, because it wasn't as of right when you I looked at the town zoning a lot today.
Yeah.
It's not as of right that would necessarily meet our standards right now. But since you already have it, can we go backwards from it? It's not a question that we've been posed yet. And I wouldn't be able to opine on it really until we've had that question from a municipality.
Right.
But if you wanted to pose that to us, we could look into it further. And I don't know if it would be a possibility to then retroactively say this area, if you want to do an overlay district and say this area is as of right going forward. I'm not sure yet because we haven't had the question. Criteria number 3 is to create an energy reduction plan for the municipal operations and then to reduce that energy use by 20% within 5 years. Actually, I have I might as well just go through the slides in more detail. I mentioned criteria 1 and 2. So criteria 3 is first for the town to create a baseline. You want to identify how much energy the town is using as part of its municipal operations. So it's all of its buildings, schools, municipal fleet, wastewater treatment plant, streetlights. You want to take into account everything that the town is really responsible for and all of the energy use. And then we have a tool called Mass Energy Insight that you can add that information to figure out what your energy use is for the town. And then once you've created that baseline, then you create a plan to reduce that energy use by 20% within 5 years. It's just a plan to create that you have to create to reduce your energy use by 20% within 5 years. We don't hold you to that 20%. Like if you don't make it, we don't take away your designation grant or anything. But we want to see that there's a plan in place for it. So the schools, the Board of Selectmen would adopt that plan. And then you would submit that to us to approve it as part of the application process.
I want to go back to that slide. Where it says
Yep.
superintendent and or school committee approves the edge. Wilbraham is a green community, right?
Yes, they are. They haven't included their schools though. And
Oh, they didn't include their schools?
no, because you're a regional school district between the two of you.
Yeah.
If you're a regional school district and you don't have to include your school, only the school, like if there's an elementary school, within your area, we would want you to include that. But for regional school districts, we kind of missed that opportunity, but we would love the opportunity to go back and then add them in right now. So if Hampton's going through the process of becoming a green community, it might be a really good opportunity to include the schools right now, because then you would be able to apply for grants on behalf of them.
Okay.
Criteria number 4 is a fuel efficient vehicle policy. So what this is saying is that the town will only purchase fuel efficient vehicles whenever they're commercially available. And we have within our, I can send you the documentation about the certain miles per gallon that your vehicles have to meet. There are some exempt vehicles right now. As of this very minute, police cruisers are exempt, but that's probably going to change because they're starting to be more commercially available. The hybrid versions of police cruisers are starting to be more commercially available. Other emergency vehicles are also exempt from this policy, but that might change once they're available. Heavy duty vehicles like fire trucks, ambulances, anything over 8,500 pounds are exempt from the policy. Just to give you, some people don't know the gross weight of vehicles. So an F-150 would have to meet the policy, but an F-250 wouldn't meet the policy because that would be over 8,500 pounds. And then we have, we list whatever the miles per gallon are based on whether it's 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, whether it's a sedan, an SUV, or a pickup truck. So you just have to, before you purchase a vehicle, you have to go through and look and make sure that that vehicle meets our policy. What this policy isn't saying is that it's not saying that you have to get rid of all of your current fleet and adopt them. It's only when it's time to change them out, you have to meet the policy.
Mark, our police chief told me recently that both East Long Meadow and Wilbraham have a significant portion of their patrol cars as hybrids.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
Can
me.
you confirm that?
I can't confirm it, but it doesn't surprise me at all. We're seeing, I know Wilbraham just purchased them. I don't know about East Long Meadow because they're not a green community, so they don't report to us. But we're seeing that even communities that aren't green communities are buying the hybrid vehicles because they're not that much more. I think the Ford hybrid Interceptor is only about $3,000 more in cost, and it can save multiples over that amount in gasoline costs. And when you're looking at a police vehicle, it's not necessarily how many miles it's driving, it's the amount of idling it's doing at traffic stops, at details. They use a lot of fuels, just not on a miles per gallon basis, but just an overall basis. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I think the Mass State Police are in the process of that too, of almost entirely buying hybrid vehicles. And criteria number 5, the last criteria, the criteria was listed to minimize the life cycle of new buildings, new in construction. And the way to meet that right now is for a municipality to adopt the stretch code, the stretch energy building code. So Hampton would have to adopt the stretch code, and they would do that through a vote at town meeting. The stretch code is changing right now. It's going to be updated this year. So I could get into a lot more detail on the stretch code of what it currently is, but it is going to change. And it's up to the town if they want to wait and see what the new one is, or if they want to vote on it. If they vote on it and adopt the stretch code, they automatically adopt all of the future iterations of the stretch code too.
Can you give us just a brief what it is now?
So the stretch energy building code is for all new construction. So new commercial buildings that are over 100,000 square feet, and all new residential buildings, no matter the size of them. Right now, what it is there's a performance measure and a prescriptive measure for building codes. And right now, the building code could follow either of those. You can either build based on the prescriptive measures, looking at, the walls have to meet a certain R value, or the ceiling has to meet a certain R value. The windows have to be a certain, glazing measure on them. And that's the energy code that you'd have to meet, and that would be the prescriptive measure. But there's another option in the building code that's the performance measure. And that's when a HERS rater, a home energy rater comes in and actually does a test on the house. They do a pre-test through like computer calculations, and then they actually do a physical test with a blower door to see, to assign the building a certain measure, a certain HERS rating. And it has to meet that in order to meet the building code. But that's changing a little bit. It's going to become more stricter once the new version of the stretch code comes out, is released. We've released a version of it for comment right now, and I'm more than happy to give you information on that. But it hasn't been fully adopted yet.
So that covers new construction of, if I wanted to build a new house, that would cover that, right? It would have to be
Right.
that code.
Mhm.
What happens if I want to put an addition on the house?
The stretch code doesn't cover renovations or additions, unless you're doing like I think it's actually up to the building code official. Unless you're doing like a complete, tearing down to the studs of the house, of everything in the house, and then building it back up, then they might enforce stretch code on that, but not just, it wouldn't be an addition or a renovation.
And what's the time, if we decided to do this, what's usually the time frame? And how long does it take to get this all done?
To get the stretch code adopted?
To get the whole, meet the criteria, apply and all that stuff.
It's hard for me to say because I started about a few months before COVID. So it's been taking communities a lot longer to kind of get through the process in here. If you're really ambitious, I think you could probably get it done by the end of the year, and maybe submit something realistically. Or are you going to have a fall town meeting?
We always do, yes.
Okay, so you could put the stretch code on for the fall town meeting, and if you do need a zoning update, you could put that on for the fall town meeting too. And that would take care of those pieces. The fuel efficient vehicle policy could be adopted by the select board right now if you wanted to adopt it. And the other one is adding everything to Mass Energy Insight and having the energy audits done to develop the plan. I would give yourself about 5 to 6 months to do that too. So if you want to be ambitious by the end of the year, if things drag on a little bit, maybe the beginning of next year. But it's a rolling deadline. It's a rolling deadline to apply.
Just for clarification on that stretch energy code, you said it's not in renovations currently. Would that change in the new revision that you were talking about? I don't
think so, but I'm not sure right now because it hasn't been released. The one that was released, I'm pretty sure was still only in regards to new construction. I don't think there's really a good way to rate a building if for renovations, but I would leave it up to the stretch code experts, and I'd be more than happy to have a whole separate meeting on stretch code for the public to attend to learn about the stretch code, and I can bring my experts to discuss it.
I just got two other questions on that stretch code. When do you envision that the new policy for the requirements will go into place? You said the town may consider to wait. How long do you think we're looking at that before that new policy takes effect? I know it's out for comment now, but
Yeah, I want to say it's supposed to be in by the beginning of the year or by the end of the year. I'm kind of looking it up right now. I think it'd probably be best for me to just send you the information after the meeting. So I'm not doing it during the meeting.
Right, it's just, there's a certain timeline that they're saying, we want to have these new criteria in place by X date, so, but nothing like that yet.
I think there is, but I just don't have the date in front of me.
And that's the only, per se, bylaw change that would need to go into effect for this, correct?
Unless you need new zoning updates in there. So if we do require you to add any kind of zoning updates for the solar information, then that would be the case. That would be it.
Any questions?
I did put in my report tonight, a listing of our buildings and what type of heating systems and what kind of fuel they use. Once you get your plan in place and your designation grant, if you use it, you can use it for a variety of purposes, but after that, the competitive grants, I think, would be in order, and it would seem to me that one target would be the oil burning furnace at the highway department. And then after that, if you look at the other buildings, senior center heating system is natural gas, but installed in 1999. So some of these systems, even though they're natural gas, are taking on some age, including town hall, which I believe was 2013. We have 2 gas-fired furnaces downstairs, plus the mini splits. So it would seem to me that one of the obvious choices would be to go to the senior center first and look at getting funding to replace their heating system. So,
Right, but before that, we gotta get into the program.
oh, you got to get in the program. Yeah.
All right.
So,
All right.
and you know,
That
that
just
might be
works out 20%
tall order,
reduction.
but
Yeah. Mark, thank you very much for that information. We'll discuss it at future meetings and get back to you.
Okay, wonderful. And please reach out anytime.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Copy of these, right? You can send to us.
oh yeah,
Or on the OneDrive.
Yeah.
it's on the one.
And
Under green too.
Fire station.
You know, the issues, and then this is.
Can you close this screen, Bob?
Pardon?
Yeah, take him as a
Close the
presenter.
screen.
Close the screen.
No, just-
There we go.
What's up, Ed?
Okay. So I asked that, we've had the fire station expansion, the senior center expansion done or study done for, it seems like years now. Trying to move it forward in some way or another. I think we got to make a decision at some point. So I asked Ed to give me the 3 most important improvements that we need to for the existing building. Start there. So you should have a copy of that, right? So it's the
Yeah.
space, the heating and ventilation, and he's got miscellaneous things like existing wood doors and windows, which I was just looking at them now, and they're pretty bad. Floor in the meeting room is expensive. I don't know, how do you want to proceed on this? We've got to make some kind of decision sometime.
Yeah, I think it's apparent that we need to make some updates to that building. You know, I think the only hitch is this building. You know, we keep looking for reports and see, well, is this going to be financially feasible to replace? You know, is it in our best interest to fix this and then find a location for the fire department, or fix that, find a location for town hall? I think those are all questions that need to go hand in hand. And I don't think we can jump the gun and say, oh yeah, let's throw all this money at the fire station, but we know it's the lot they have is not big enough.
The biggest problem they have, as they see, is size of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, when they talk about number one thing, apparatus space, that's not something you can fix by putting an extension on the back. We can take care of the meeting room, the office, we can fit an office on the back, but there's only so much space, not getting narrower trucks.
Right,
You're not
trucks are
changing
only
the truck.
bigger, and some of the bays now came into accommodate. the
So
new
you're
trucks.
stuck with what you have.
Right.
Short of taking the bay off the right and building a big bay to the right and therefore putting the smaller trucks inside on the bays, giving more room. I'm not sure if that was even an option discussed. You're stuck with the building you have. The floor plan is a problem.
Right,
That's
and
your number one
if
thing.
we do expand that building there, will you have enough room to maneuver trucks around the back, around the front?
But I mean, once you start expanding apparatus bays out to the right, to the front there, we lose parking for personal vehicles.
Right.
People responding to fires. And then if you put everything out back, that would obviously take up those parking spaces as well.
Right.
So again, it's the size of the lot. I'm not saying, I do believe the driveway going alongside the fire station is on town property.
Correct.
It'd have to be relocated somehow, moved over. I think it used to come down somewhere by the highway department, if I'm not mistaken.
Isn't there an access road back over there? on that side?
I don't know. I haven't investigated it, but I do know that, if worse comes to worse, I think the option with adding bays to the right and then offices out back, but the question would be site work, parking and septic and things like
I
that.
wasn't thinking of adding a bay to the right. I was thinking of replacing the bay on the right with a bigger bay.
Right.
That gets your big vehicle over there and opens up better spacing inside because you have smaller vehicles now. And maybe you're not as crammed as you see where I'm going there.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it an
Because
option
you
to
have a
go
smaller bay to the
Yeah,
right.
you just use
below
that
that
like
instead.
10 feet or something.
Except now you make that a big bay.
But if you go up two, can you put a bay where the conference room and radio room is right now?
If you're gonna make all the offices to the back, could you make something, so to speak, to the left of the other bay, a smaller truck bay? Possibly, and then all four, you got four doors in the front and all office stuff to the back. It's
Or-
possible.
I don't know if there's room to go back, and do we have to go up in that?
I think there is room to go back. I think we talked about that, keep in mind, we own the land and it's wooded between that and the highway department. Yeah, but again, it's, to me, apparatus is the number one thing. Everything else, like you said, you could go up for a meeting room if you had to, but you have floor space, you have to put trucks on. You have to make a space where it's safe for the firefighters to get their equipment on and get on. and off the
And we know
trucks.
now there's not enough space for that, and I think Ed's mentioned a decon room
Mhm,
as well. We got to do that, you have to do ADA bathrooms,
mhm.
right? I don't even know if you need multiple bathrooms. Would you need men's and women's?
I
or
mean, you need one in
general?
the hot zone, cold zone,
Yeah.
thing. It can be unisex. But if you do add a second floor, you're looking at cost of an elevator. Yes,
I
something.
mean, we saw that at,
Yeah,
what was that you saw, Mom?
Munson.
Munson.
What if you reconfigure, what if the old fire truck that's in there, I mean, you only use that for what? We have it.
Yeah, there's functions, 3 or 4
Right.
functions.
What if there was a auxiliary building to put that in? With a decon room attached to that, and then that would open up something in the back there to push some things around.
I mean, there's always things that, we could try. That roof is very low, the garage doors, I mean, if you're saying use it for another purpose other than parking the vehicle in there. I assume all our mechanicals, water and stuff are far, far away from that area. Not saying it can't be done.
Yeah.
Renovation is, more costly. I mean, it's always something we can look at, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
And the other option
Top of my
is
head.
town-owned land in town. Is there any place that would be cheaper that town already owns?
The only
We
place
know
that I looked at with, I forget their name, associates there, was alongside the police department and senior center, and there wasn't enough room in there. It was deemed mostly wetlands.
Mhm.
There wasn't any room to build.
Okay. So I got that apparatus problem. We're gonna have that problem even if we use that building, right? We're gonna change all the ductwork or,
Yeah, I mean, the openings of the garage doors are narrow. You have to be extremely careful backing in, you don't, hit the mirrors or anything.
right?
So what I'm saying, and I'm showing a picture of the front of
Yeah.
it, I'm saying if you took this and blew that and made that bigger,
Bigger.
this is more appropriate. If you take that truck out to here, are you making more room, safer room for there? And I think Craig was just mentioning, is this a bay area here? And now we're in office structures. in the back. I don't think this is something that Mitchell really considered.
No, I don't think so.
I
Wait.
don't think so either. I think we work around what we have here, the middle two bays.
But
and
we
what
still
the
need to
boat can-
expand the middle two bays too to fit larger vehicles.
It could be too. I mean, you could come off a little bit here. I mean, if you're putting a bay here, you have room to the left of bay one, if you call it that. I think we're looking at the footprint we have and just say, okay, you're changing the roof line. But again, I don't think they really explored that. I didn't see that there. In the 27 plans, I don't think that was one of them.
No, because I think they're talking about rotating the whole thing. Right? is what
I
I'm
still
saying.
go back, I think the way they have it right now, they roll straight out onto the North Road. It's a good,
Yeah,
even, maybe you even get that one in back there, bring it into here, the one that's parked over there, bring it here, now it's strictly opposite of that.
Ed, do you know offhand what the base size building codes are? Wendell made, that's 10-foot doors now, or 12-foot,
I think they're larger than that. I believe they're 13 and a half.
13 and a half.
It's in the Mitchell.
Yeah. I remember reading it, so I don't remember.
Yeah,
Which is,
we have 12 right now. I believe the two bigger doors up front, it's tight.
Yeah, so we'd have to expand out too.
that was part of the consideration. This had to be probably 5-6 years ago, when you were talking replacing tanker two, that we were going to have trouble fitting it in there with the, so to speak, the standard size of new tankers coming.
Right, that door, the far door to the right, if you're looking at the picture on your laptop is even smaller. We got the 10 by 10 door.
Right, that's what we're saying. We changed the roof line.
Residential garage door,
Yeah, even coming in with the F-250.
tight.
It's. like
Right,
an
that's
inch
what I'm
on
saying,
each
you just
side.
blow that out. You keep what you have, and basically you keep the column in the middle and rework it to the sides. Can we go back to Mitchell and say, we have some other ideas?
Yeah.
I think this is workable. Yeah.
Like, I guess the topic we need to ask ourselves is the location for the fire department, the future location of the fire department.
If you had a, so to speak, let me throw this out here, a 5-bay structure facing North Road, and maybe you get a little back and forth with whatever, with the door sizes. Is that something you think
Yeah,
fits the model of the fire department going
I
forward?
think we still need to address the other rooms that are needed, the bathrooms. and
I agree.
rooms and-
But I think it gives a lot more latitude out back there at that point. Right.
Yes, I do think that's an option.
Let's see if we can go back to them and see if they can come up with something. All right?
Invite them in, Bob.
Yep.
What we need to do.
Mitchell, we're gonna go back to Mitchell, invite them in maybe and see if, if they could come up with something with our ideas,
Obviously, we have to pay for a new report from them.
right?
There is like $3,000 or so left in that account,
Okay.
so
Right.
there's some.
That's good. Very good.
Truck repair,
What?
truck repair.
Truck
You
repair.
want to bring that to the reserve fund or?
Oh, yeah, the truck repair. Let's with the what happened.
Your truck repair, it happens.
Which truck?
You got like 14,000.
Did you do it?
That is something, it's not necessarily a truck repair, it's when it was ordered with the hydraulic system running off a generator that's on board of the apparatus, which is a 7,500 watt generator. It's very large. It runs on diesel from the diesel tank on the truck. And all the emergency lighting on that truck is also powered off that generator. So when we put to scene, the generator is firing up, it's older, it's blowing that dark smoke all over the place, you're yelling on the radio, so you can hear one another over it. It's extremely loud, and with our battery operated extrication tools that we got from town a few years back, we don't need the big generator in there to power up those hydraulic tools anymore, which are very antiquated as well. So I'd like to send it out to have the truck refurbished, have the generator removed, have that cabinet decon cleaned out, and then put a drawer, a pull-out slider in the back to put the new battery tools on that we can access more easily, have battery-powered emergency lights at our hand. If we do need electrical power, I have a small 1,000-watt Honda generator that I can place in the truck. For additional.
This is, again, an upgrade, but it's also for safety as well, because with the noise in a generator, sometimes it interferes with communication a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that green community thing that we were talking about, getting rid of that, the dirty exhaust, because if we're sitting there with emergency lights on, waiting for a tow truck or something, we don't need to be listening or smelling that generator on scene. We could just be using our battery powered lights and do away with the whole issue of having that. We don't use it for anything except emergency lighting on that truck.
What's the year, the model year of the engine two?
I believe it's a 2001.
2001.
What's the life expectancy? We put this money into it.
So we usually try to keep a truck 30 years as our roundabout age.
Yeah.
Only because of technology, safety standards are always improving, especially LED lights are a huge thing. So the 30 years, I think if we do this will definitely get us to that point, maybe, a little beyond, but
30 years is,
it's going to make it a lot more useful for us.
feels like 2032.
Yeah.
It
It's definitely a 10-year. And we did this with our tanker, our 1991 international tanker, was 2,500 gallons, but when it first came, it only had I think a 10-inch PVC round thing. And we sent it out to Bulldog, I believe, and they put a quick dump automatic valve on it, camera in the back, a stainless steel slide. So that got us to the longevity of that truck where it is today. Otherwise, we would have probably been replacing that truck a lot sooner as well.
The one thing I see here, Don, is that I did mention reserve, but with this explanation by the chief, I don't know if it really qualifies because it's not an emergency per se. I would say either it'd be an appropriation or a line-to-line transfer from other unused funds. And I would perhaps ask Bob if he could identify some for us, because May 1st is the time we can do that.
What's the total? I'm averaging like here, like 32,000.
No, I believe it's more somewhere around 15. I think.
14, 15.
So
Yeah,
this is 10 here, 5 here.
He
10
was
here.
recommending just the 10 before.
Okay, I see it highlighted here.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot more. that
I see all
he
the
gave me
others.
a quote on.
Yeah.
I did have, he will put a scope down the pump just to make sure we're not spending money.
Yeah.
If the pump obviously is on its way out, we don't want to put this money into the truck.
Okay.
And then I'll be coming with a bigger price tag request.
Would the work be done prior to July 1st? That would be a thing.
I don't know. I know he said it would be relatively quick. I just don't know what his schedule. I'd have to go back to the salesman and ask him if that's.
What is budgeted for before? July
Well,
1st?
my point is we could transfer, it would have to be extended by July 1st.
I'm sure if I share that information, he may make it happen. It's not a big project for him.
Okay.
So you're talking 15, about 15,000?
Yeah, I think it's just under that.
Work with Cliff and identify some sources.
1079.
You can work with Cliff and identify some excess.
We could find, yeah, and also we could do a contract so that it does spill over into July in the next fiscal year. As long as we have
It's
a contract
encumbered.
behind it, we'll be fine.
It's encumbered then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. All right.
No new shirts, though. I mean, that's your money.
Yeah, I understand.
We need a motion, or we're just gonna Bob look into it first, and see what money comes from? So we'll look at it. Right.
All right, thanks. Next thing we got, why don't we skip over discussion succession planning, the building inspectors here, give us an update on the Cumberland Farms.
Oh, Wendell.
Oh, no.
Good evening. So have you driven by Cumberland Farms?
Yeah,
Nice plywood.
Yeah.
We'll make a next.
Finally got a hold of the real estate company.
Last day at the X.
That is, yeah, the plywood's expensive. I'm worried someone might take it out. of the building.
Make sure the assessors know to raise the value, that's expensive.
There's a lot of self-tapping screws around.
Thank God. The windows, I think, were about ready to fall out in a place. Anyway, so it was really good to hear from their new real estate firm, which is based in London, and based in the United States in Cincinnati, but they still have somebody in Westboro, and she responded. So we were able to get the place boarded up, make it safe. They're gonna have landscapers come in the middle of the week and kind of take care of the overgrowth.
Did she share what their plans are? Are they trying to sell it as a building or as a property?
So it's being sold as a building, I believe, and I believe they have a buyer.
Is it rehabbable in your opinion?
Absolutely, it's a masonry building. They just have to tear it down to where it's good and work from there.
Okay.
But it may not fit in with the new person's plans or whatever. There's other issues with regards to, you know, water and septic that they'll have to work through as well. But, you know, if they build in the same footprint, it's still viable.
Mhm.
And from what the realtor has said, they have somebody, but, you know, this is why I kind of started going a little harder at them is we've heard realtors say, I've got a purchase sale for the last, you know, my last letter was in 2019. And I've been dealing with a former realtor since then, who's had it sold a few times. But for some reason, they haven't pulled the trigger on it.
We don't know what the value they're asking. Do we?
No. The former realtor told me that it's still advertised online. I haven't gotten that far. I didn't see anything. Part of the consideration with the new realtor is I want them to put a sign on it for sale. Just to make sure that, you know, if there are signs on it, maybe they won't let it get as run down. If their name's attached to it. But I mean, they're paying their bills. We don't have a beautification bylaw in Hamden. They've made it safe.
I have two questions. You saw me down there looking at it this morning, wandering around here chatting. Some of the roof does look exposed. Have you seen that? Like,
Yeah, it's
the
open.
cinders open at the top.
And that was part of the, you know, premise behind me sending them the open and unsafe to the weather letter to begin with, is just to try to make them
The other
take
thing
responsibility.
is the power cut to that building from the
Yes.
pole. Because then you see the lines coming in and there's stuff hanging on the line.
Yeah,
So I
Yeah,
just worried about
those have been
potential
dead.
fire hazard.
that building hasn't been in use for 20 years at
So
this point now.
it's dead at the pole.
We've had multiple people walking through it doing stuff to it, so. At this point, you know, it's just a matter of, again, they had it sold 2 years ago, COVID hit. The person that was gonna buy it owns rental property. Well, what does everybody have a glut of right now? Office space, rental properties and that, so they backed out, then they had a couple other people involved who had different uses, you know. But it just wasn't happening. The new company or the new Cumberland Farms isn't like the Cumberland Farms from, you know, Massachusetts. They're global now, and it's like trying to nail Jello sometimes, but they're making an attempt to clean up their business. They're making an attempt to market it, so.
Right, they came pretty quick.
Right.
To-
She acted on it really fast once we were able to make contact, so.
Let's make sure that for sale sign gets on the front then, right?
Excuse me?
Let's make sure that for sale sign.
Yeah, I think that's just an accountability factor, you know. If you're gonna market something and you're afraid to put your sign on it, you know, you might wanna talk to your client. But that's where we are right now, so we're kind of in a decent spot with Cumberland at this point. Hopefully they'll keep it going moving forward.
Now, don't we have an easement for that property for the culvert from the park?
I have to be honest and say I don't know. I know there is a culvert that runs, I believe, to the right of the building.
Right.
Facing it it goes under the road. From
Well, we
like,
had to, that's where we first did that lining thing a few years back.
right,
Verify that the town's interests are protected in any sale.
exactly.
Anything else in Cumberland?
No, we're good.
Okay, good.
Thanks for following up on that, Wendell.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I give him a call like I was a spurned girlfriend for years. It was nice to actually get some results out of it.
She felt that.
Yeah, she got sick of me calling.
No longer ghosted.
Sometimes it's better just to take care of the problem. That's from the zoning enforcement officer.
I can see.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Preliminary discussion, succession planning. So this, basically, I put this on. A lot of towns are doing it. The advisory committees talked about it. We've talked a little bit. How do we plan for people who retire? Something unfortunate happens, and how do we fill those positions?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of issues. We have a couple of departments where there's only one department head. We have a couple of elected department heads. And thirdly, we have a couple of departments that are doing succession work. The assessors, for example, are bringing, they've created this new assistant assessor and providing her with training. And I think that's really the path that you're talking about. We should certainly encourage other departments, particularly where they have an assistant, to do the same. If they believe that the assistant is someone who is, as they say here, interested, is the employee interested? And secondly, if the employee is interested, get into a training program. In terms of your other departments, I think the absence of a bench in a smaller community is the challenge. So,
I think we're fortunate to have a lot of talented elected people serving in the capacity in the townhouse. But, down the road, when those people are no longer in the position, do we want to continue as an elected, say, treasurer or an accountant and go with them as appointed? Changing the structure? Will there be enough people in succession to lead?
Qualified, because an elected position is, it could be a popularity camp.
We've been very fortunate.
Very fortunate. They're doing an
excellent
excellent job for us.
Qualified people, but you could get someone that's just elected with no qualification.
And I don't know, Don, is that a state petition type thing?
There's a lot of towns that have them as a.
We'd have to look into that.
Yeah.
Typically it comes under a charter type thing, but we're not going that far.
I think when I was looking under.
There's something my father always talked about, I know that, but it's not just the stroke of a pen.
It might be time to look at that seriously, though, how that gets done, at least know how it gets done.
And we're fortunate, but Bob brings up a good point. We got talented people, we could deep in the bench. But it also gets back into, do you have work for them? We are a small town. We're fortunate that we have these people, and they're pretty full time,
Mhm.
but I don't know if you have enough work
For
for
the next person.
And we talked before, and that's why we have a
That's
couple of
it.
assistants now. We have an assistant treasurer,
Mhm.
pretty skilled, assistant tax collector, pretty skilled.
Yep, and accountant.
Right, so we're at that point, we're moving up, and I think it goes back to you, and I think Mary as well. How do you get somebody to do both roles? Okay, now you make enough work for almost the full-time person to be able to sub in,
Mhm.
like you're on vacation, God forbid something happens. We all talk about this. It's something you never want to talk about, but you gotta be pragmatic.
So I was looking up some stuff today on the DOR's website, and there's a guide for transitioning government from elected to appointed positions. And the Department of Revenue is nudging communities to appoint treasurers, tax collectors, and such versus elected.
I'm sure.
So there's a whole guide on their website of how to proceed with that process.
I think Don hit the nail on the head. You don't want to get into a popularity contest. We've been extremely lucky. The people running are skilled.
And as the required skills increase, that's the kind of argument I think against the standard election process.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up, get it on our radar screen, and, for, continuing discussion on how to, probably get the other elected officials involved too, to discuss what
It's particularly appropriate because there's a shortage of key people at the municipal level who have the appropriate skills.
But I do think Bob's point is well taken. The assessors have been proactive about
They
that,
have,
you know.
Yep.
So,
All right, we'll keep
and
that.
it
on
speaks to the
agenda.
fact, that's why we're talking about the stipend thing. You want to keep these skilled people as
exactly,
well.
exactly.
Highway garage, how is that building going? When we cut the ribbon?
We're looking at July, right around July 1st. So it's scheduled to be shipped from, Bob, what did they say, in May out of
Yes.
Canada. Typically, a project like this either would have been bonded or you would have put a down payment on. My gosh, it's something I've seen in my industry. People are almost looking for 100% money up front nowadays because there's such a demand for things. Obviously, look for half down, well, the money's appropriated.
Yeah, it is.
So why
The-
pay for
the
a
form is
bond
here to
when you're
sign.
throwing the money away? Basically, at this point.
The selectmen
the-
voted, the form is here to sign.
Right,
to-
what do they say, Bob, on the road
Was
in
it-
May and then they're starting construction
Right,
June,
yeah.
June 1st? and-
Right.
What are we supposed to sign?
It would authorize the payment of the partial payment or the down payment for the project,
For the building part, not.
for the building.
Not
Yes.
the.
No,
yeah,
no,
the
just-
building,
in other words, the manufacturer doesn't want to move forward until, he wanted all of his money or a bond.
yeah. Or all of bond.
Yeah, but
50%.
it has been agreed, I believe, reading through the email today, that if that amount is signed by the selectmen, we'll move forward.
Keep us on track, because this was a good,
In this company, we've got that money already in the thing. right?
Oh, yeah.
It's 31,000.
No, 108.
108.
I know. I
Current
think it's on
payment
the
to
right
108. I
hand.
got it.
You got it?
We didn't sign this last week because I had no building, no money. That's my theory.
Gotcha.
Now, this building is allegedly waiting at the Canadian border to,
What'd you say, May, what? Third shift?
Well,
they get shipping out of there in May and scheduled delivery here
Right.
June 1st.
yeah, what I read was,
They
I didn't
say-
think they had manufactured it, that they really want strong commitment from the town before they go through the manufacturing.
Apparently, this is the building that was going to somebody else and their funding went away and we got this building.
Okay.
ahead of schedule.
So we have. But it's
We even picked a color that would basically be out of stock. Look at the problem we have with police cars. You know, this is everywhere.
all right, so I signed this?
Make a motion to authorize prepayment of 50% of the building cost.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm signing here.
I think you can sign anywhere on that. I did, when I spoke with Matt, who's with Maroy, I said, you don't have the architect's signature on
No.
that, which certifies. And he said he will have it by end of the day tomorrow.
Okay, Larry.
So
So I just sign this anywhere?
I think so. That's,
Okay, Sophie.
You used to that. Just sign here.
Yeah,
Thank you, Radar. 3-day pass to Tokyo. Before your time,
Mash.
maybe your parents probably told you about it.
Watching my grandfather.
Oh.
all right, pass that down, sign.
terrific. Thank you.
All right, so the next thing we got here is just, this is a running thing, a decision that we gotta make, fire station, senior center expansion, the ARPA expenditures. We should look at the board and committee appointments, we always have a lot of those at the end of the year. I think the fire chief's appointment expires in June 2022.
So chiefs as well.
The sub chiefs.
Did we raise the stipend for them this year? I can't recall.
No, we slid that by quick.
Okay.
All right, transfer station budget.
So basically, Jake and I went over the numbers the past week. Pretty good, you may recall, pretty good increase in the hauling cost this year. This year currently it's 125, it's going to 155 next year, which is the last year of the contract.
Per ton, David,
The tonnage is also going up. No, hauling costs per trip.
per trip.
And then the tonnage cost is going up, not quite the percentage, but still.
And the Murph fee goes up too, right?
Well, the MERV part, at least we are starting to get a little back on that. The one thing is that, and I think all of you may have personal services, the independent vendors are raising their prices
Yeah.
as well. So we are seeing in the competition, we're getting more business, which means bag sales go up, which is good. We think we can accomplish, because we don't need bags this year, we can accomplish almost a level budget by just raising the permit fee $10, which is your one-time charge, from 50 to 60,
Yearly permit?
and the corresponding second fee for the second household member. The same percentage. I think it's currently 25, goes to 30.
And what about us elderly citizens on fixed income?
I think you should vote yourself a raise on the board like you wanted to before now. So
Didn't we
we're,
give a break for senior citizens?
Yes, they pay a
Tax
lower,
work.
they pay a lower cost for the
if
permit.
you carry your bag up there,
Yeah.
there's a big break, yeah.
Yeah,
They pay like $25.
something like that.
Anyhow, so my recommendation for the budget, I think you saw an email there, is just, we're going to basically level fund it based on the revenues coming in.
So that extra $10 increase in bags, you think will cover?
We'll cover based on, no, in permits,
Permits, I'm sorry.
Based on what we see in permit sales on
Bag
an
costs
annual
will stay the same.
basis, we think we're good.
Do you think bag costs will stay the same?
Bag cost looks pretty good right now because the increased volume in bags is going to help us.
All right, so we need a motion to raise the permit fee.
Yes.
Make a motion to raise the yearly permit fee from $50 to $60 for the transfer station,
And the second fee would be 25 to 30.
25 and 34 to
For the
70.
second household.
Second household.
Second, because it's the Board of Health.
Right, and this would be taking effect after July 1st, because right now our big permit
Starting
purchases
July
right now, it's not fair, I think, to hit people
First
with
20.
this change when they don't expect it. We're in the current budget right now.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Right.
Just while we're on topic of the
Just to-
transfer station,
Right, and just to keep in mind, like I say, next year is the last year, so we do have to really consider, has this been good for us? And honestly,
well, McNamara,
well, not just that, but I mean, I know costs are going up. But 125 to 155 is a pretty good bump. You know, that's not your 5% jump right there.
do they offer,
And I think hauling went from up 88 to 95 per ton, something like that, 10% right there. So,
Of course, they wanted to do that this year. They wanted to go to,
well, they already went up in the
Yeah.
current year, so they're going, that's projected for next year. Look, I understand it's a hard market. There are fewer places to go, they closed. Northampton, they
yeah,
closed.
fuel issues.
And then, what did I see the article, Mass Live today, Don, about, over at Bondi's?
Yeah,
They're selling Bondi's Island.
Yeah,
close it
the
all down?
incinerator
We're gonna close it.
went bankrupt. Yeah.
So as far as
Bought by USA.
transfer station goes, do they offer any type of hazardous waste programs too for us?
We've had that in the past, and it's,
It was always a
What-
collective,
what was her
or
name?
regional. Clean Harbors.
no, but the lady from Long Meadow.
Oh, yeah.
Ellen, no,
No, I know who you mean.
Exactly, she ran it every year.
Yeah.
Like a champ.
Yep.
And the last
She's
couple
still
of years, it
involved,
was
too.
too
either,
costly.
we had it at Minichog, we had it at East Meadow Fire Station. It got shut down the past couple of years, because of COVID. I think it's worth, I don't think she's involved anymore, but she knows the players.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth reaching out
Jan knows
to.
all that. And now I can see her.
I just
but
wonder how many
don't.
people have old material sitting in the garage they want to get rid of. And
Well, that was the thing.
Safety
The biggest,
reasons,
the
yeah,
biggest
try to
thing
get
there
rid of
was people with the oil paint because
Yeah.
they know they can latex right with kitty litter.
Arlene
Those oil
Miller.
ones was the problem.
Arlene Miller.
Thank you.
Oh, way to go.
Nice job, Bob.
We have another Board of Health issue.
Well, I do, and thank you for reminding me, Chair. So we have a request for a variance for a property at Oak Knoll. You can drive by it on the way home tonight, Don.
Yeah.
Drop this off.
Check it out.
Thank you. We have a request from the, Board of Health agent to allow a reduction in separation.
separation of,
Reduction, I'm sorry, separation in the test between SAS and groundwater. As recommended by the Board of Health agent. separation by 2 feet, the depth of groundwater is 2 feet from there.
Make a
You
motion.
can either ask for a full dissertation or trust it.
I trust you. I was curious.
No, I'm not trusting me, I'm trusting Finn.
Yeah, well, our health agent.
Yes.
So we'll make a motion to approve the variance as presented.
I think it's uphill from you, Don, I'm not trying.
You're downhill from us.
Okay, then that's
You're downhill. Our septic goes that way.
all right, that's fine.
That's probably, gotta replace this.
That's right. All yours. Nice.
He's got the horses. What do you do with the horses there? The horses. Second.
All in favor?
Okay, school committee, the school committee has sent us a letter asking for us to appoint a representative of the Board of Selectmen to be on the superintendent screening committee.
That's an aggressive schedule. they have.
As an aggressive schedule, I'd be willing to volunteer. I'd like to volunteer for that.
It's an unpaid position, Don.
I know, it should be done by the 13th.
I would be okay with your volunteer.
Sure.
Thank you.
Did you see
Motion
the
to,
message that I
it is
Make a
sent out
motion to
late?
appoint Don as the rep to the superintendent school committee for the board. of Selectmen.
Second.
All in favor?
I sent out a message late this afternoon. You may not have seen it, about an all-day program on Wednesday and school committee meeting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I was confused about that because I was asking you, we had a thing on the 27th that now has been shifted to the Wolverine Police Department. And that was the one that was gonna be like 10 to 1 o'clock.
That's the
It originally
prevention.
was gonna be a
The
TWB.
prevention.
That's the.
Right,
yeah,
and now they've got 2 things on the same day.
right.
Right, the TWB, the second TWB, I think, is for the superintendent, that again is a superintendent's thing.
Right,
And that's the different groups meeting.
Yeah.
right. I mean, this is one we've had scheduled for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
and now it's over.
And I think the parents are,
During,
what time is it?
yeah,
I think it's this one here, right?
9 to 10:30.
No, it's community members, I think, are.
Community members here, residents, parents.
Oh, yeah, okay, so there's a 9 to 10:30 in the morning and a 4
to 6.
to start 6 in the evening. They have input into the superintendent search. Premium pay article, we sent that along, we'll have to decide on that at some point. What we want to do with that. Correspondence. Any correspondence? All the Wilbraham Regional School District information. And,
Oh, I had a question. Have we sent the warrant to Rose? Do we have any comment back? And we're running short time. She's not the fastest.
She has had the warrant,
Okay.
did offer a couple of comments, very little, and I incorporated what she suggested.
Okay.
So
So we have to vote on motions, right?
that's, she got back to us on that maybe 2 weeks ago or longer. Yeah. And the
Good.
warrant is posted now on the website for residents who want to get a look at it.
are we ready to decide the motions?
To decide,
Assign the motions?
I think we are. Although that can wait till next week. I'll bring a warrant in so I can write it down.
Okay.
Doing what?
And I did see, I asked about the green sheets. I heard they went to the printers last week. So
They were supposed to have gone to the printer,
Wednesday last week.
yes,
Yeah. So
right after
do we have a date?
their meeting.
No, they did. So do we have a
They
date?
did.
I don't, I never
Well-
get a date.
They went to the, I mean, did we give them a copy of the warrant to put in their green sheet submittal?
They had a copy of the final copy of the warrant Tuesday night. 'Cause I
Okay.
sent it to them after this meeting. So
So that's, do you want to reach out? Is it Gary?
Yes, I was pulling together the town report today and I.
What are the chances of that being done? Let's just get the green sheets.
Beg your pardon.
I know you're putting our picture on the cover. You're just surprised.
Yeah, I'm just
right?
putting all of you guys.
The town reports and they're printing away as we speak.
Not gone to print, but I think I'm gonna see
We
the
have 7
printer
marks making
tomorrow.
copies on.
How many, we have town reports left, of course, from last year.
Yeah.
It seems that it's like a pinball as to how many,
Yeah, you don't know, so just
I try to hand them out to everyone.
do your standard run, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Selectmen's reports,
We have planning on Wednesday, and I'm actually happy to see on the thing, you know, I've been mentioning the master plan for a while, so that is on the agenda for discussion. So I think at some point we're going to move that bigger into a more community engagement. Certainly time, 40 years.
We got reading time at Green Meadows coming up this week. I believe it's 28th.
Thursday.
Be reading to the kids.
Conservation Commission had their meeting last Wednesday. They had a couple of, had a pretty good agenda of some ADRs that they took care of. But the main thing is that the 530 Glendale Road solar project, one of the abutters brought to the attention of the commission that the developer and the consulting company were not registered to do business in Massachusetts. They're out-of-state companies, they're registered in Delaware, but they're not registered to do business in Massachusetts. It was referred to legal counsel to see what they needed to do. The legal counsel advised them not to proceed until all the correct paperwork was in, and that there was an assurance that there would be a continuance without any problems with the timeline and stuff like that. That's what that is. Ted, you got anything to add?
No, anything, I know, Bob knows, we had a meeting with Rose today for about 45 minutes, a couple of some Concom and Bob. And it's pretty much what you said, everything's on hold. She's gonna write a letter to them and we're gonna write a letter to them and see what happens.
All right. Thank you.
Don, can I ask for next week, can we bring Mark in? I don't think we put our construction schedule with that.
Oh, Mark.
You know, I think that would be, you know, a good idea.
Spaced out there for a bit.
No, I think I'd like to,
Right.
you know, get some direction in on that, especially wherever it is in the bidding thing. And I know we had a question before about the chapter 90 is now changing the rules about how you bid for projects,
Yeah.
get the money back. So,
Town administrator's report. Okay. Based on the selectmen's vote last week, authorized the chief to contract with Blackboard Connect, which is now being known as Connect. We're getting rid of Blackboard. I think it started out as a college-based system, and they've migrated over to municipalities. So that'll be for July 1. The shared dispatch arrangement with Wilbraham has been funded for the second year. I got confirmation of that today. Also, the shared health arrangement with Munson, Wilbraham, and Long Meadow has been funded by the state for the second year at $287,500. Got confirmation of that today. The Maroy issue you've already addressed. Also, 510 Glendale Road, we had the conference in the office today and talked with town council. She recommended take no action until they are registered. And if time is going to run out, ask them to sign a written extension. Otherwise, veto, deny the petition. So that's where it stands.
The Judy's already sent an email to them to that effect.
Okay. Also, we did spend some time today, Ted and I spent some time with the microphone system, found the reason why there was no audio at their meeting last week. And I think we have good audio tonight. So I had a call today from a visit today from the town accountant. And he would like to know if the selectmen would want to meet on May 30th or June 6th to review the audit. The auditor is ready to report.
oh, what's Scanlon?
Yeah. So do you have a preference? No?
Well, is the 30th the holiday? Or is the 29th the holiday?
It's gonna be a Monday, right?
No, because it'd be Memorial Day.
30th, no, well,
30th is Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
So it looks like June 6th.
So it looks like June 6th or actually, or June 1st.
June
Um,
6th. I vote for June 6th.
All right. June 1st. The assessors are going to make a presentation on tax exemptions at the senior center on Wednesday, April the 27th at 10:30 a.m. They also hope to have our veterans agent there to talk about veterans programs that are available to some seniors.
Wednesday's a busy day for public presentations.
Yeah. ARP has been updated. And as I mentioned earlier, for green communities purposes, those are the age and the type of fuel used by our heating systems, if you decide to go in that direction. The ATM warrant is posted on the town website. Also, the municipal vulnerability website is posted there for those that want to look at that program. I did send out something later this afternoon to the selectmen and really recommend that you go all the way to the bottom of that message, and it gives you a password to get into another presentation, which is really worthwhile and explains what they're trying to accomplish. The Summers Road Crosswalk project will go out to bid next week. It's designed.
I thought Mark was doing that.
Yeah,
What's that?
Mark's doing that.
Well, he may do it.
But I talked to Mark, he'd already,
He is.
he's contacted a couple companies.
Okay.
He went to that thing in East Long Meadow, talked to them about, they put the crosswalks in on
Yeah.
Shaker Road and Maple Road. That's-
He was gonna put in the lights too, right?
Yeah, I kind of thought that he
He's,
said afterward that, I thought he had some reservations about.
over that municipal. home.
Well, anyway, we have the design done.
Yeah.
Design's done, so we're ready to build.
So just curious, when did he have reservations? Because when we had him here, we asked him if he would do it, and he said, okay.
Yeah,
Was
I think
was
he
it
talked
after
about
that?
it a little later to me, and I thought that he
And he
thought
met
that
with
there
East Long
might be
Meadow
some.
people, looked at theirs, called their company. They're like, well, let's get it
Anyhow.
done. We don't want another anniversary, right, Don?
Okay. The East Main Street Bridge data and report have been submitted to DER. And I did prepare and sent a letter to the assessors requesting they declare a $50,000 surplus. Now, do you want that to go into the general fund? Do you want a special revenue account for that, or what do you want?
I thought we were funding the assessor's request for their money out of their
Okay.
overlay reserve.
So in which case it'll have to be a special revenue account because reval's next year.
Well, the warrant article doesn't expire. It wouldn't have to be a revenue account. You're just funding a warrant article.
Right, it
Yeah.
doesn't expire, but this is not going to be through a warrant article. It's just
I thought
going
it was
to,
on the warrant. You were funding the assessors and you were also getting rid of the
Right.
the
Correct.
assessor's account, so the money we're funding it.
so if we
is the
put,
article.
yeah, we are doing what you said. If we put, if the assessors declare a $50,000 surplus and put the money there, where does it go?
Wasn't that
It's
a
like a
whole
warrant
article?
Like anytime you appropriate, like for
Yeah.
a cruiser, it doesn't expire until the purpose is. ended.
But they need an account, right?
Well, that's just.
There was two articles
that have to go into a special revenue account.
Right, and it's the second article, right?
The second article establishes that new fund.
Assessors funding for state mandated program, which is you're saying.
That's the
thing.
second.
So
Yeah.
we're appropriating $50,000 for their thing
Funding it in
from the
there.
assessor's overlay reserve, declared surplus to the overlay.
Into there.
Yeah, exactly. And they can pay for the audit from.
Next year.
Right.
So that is,
And we don't have any special stabilization fund going. on.
No.
that's the report.
Anything else to come before the board? Motion to
I think we
adjourn.
should meet again next week.
Okay.
All right. And that's-
Motion to adjourn?
Second.